Welcome everyone to NanoCon. Today, as you know, our topic is cybersecurity in healthcare. I will kindly ask you to mute your microphone to be in attendee mode, and also we would be happy to hear where are you from, what's your activity, what's your background. Do not hesitate to share this in chat, so we will be able to know each other better. Also, I would like to present our team. My name is Natalia. I am community manager of OrigamiLab, and my colleague Victor. Today, we will also tell you more about OrigamiLab and about our new project, which is very exciting and useful tool for researchers. So I think we are ready to start presentation.
Hi everyone, first of all, and big thank you to Natalie for organizing the whole event here. So thank you very much, Natalie. Sorry for the technical issues I had. For some reason I was not let in as a presenter, but we worked it out. The agenda for today, you will hear a little bit about OrigamiLab, what the background is of the initiative, and why we are organizing those NanoCons. Then we're going to hand over to Karina, to our guest speaker today, and also thank you very much, Karina, for joining us today. And
thank you too. Thanks for the opportunity.
We see your home screen, but can you share presentation?
Yeah, sorry, I just realized it. Yeah. Yeah, hello? Hello? Just a moment. This new webinar software is making us a bit of trouble today. We did some practice, but real life is always different. So now I think you should see it.
Yes.
All right, cool. Let me go into full screen. Perfect. Yeah, so we would then hand over to Karina, who is our guest speaker today, to talk about security in healthcare in general. Thank you very much, Karina, for all the effort. We know how much preparation it was to make the presentation, so thank you very much for doing this today. And at the end, we'll have a quick interview with Karina, a couple of questions that probably interest most of the audience, and then we open up a Q&A session if there's something to question about from your side on the audience. So feel free to ask questions on the chat during the event as well. We will collect them and bring them up at the end and have an open discussion on security issues in general. So yeah, looking forward to the event. And let me quickly introduce you OrigamiLab. OrigamiLab is an initiative that is a community initiative with the principles of open science and open source. It is a community and an initiative dedicated to the acceleration of scientific research, specifically in the area of healthcare and drug development. We want to connect young talents and old talents and from all different disciplines in specifically in technology, and bring the concepts that the industry has come up with in different areas and in different parts of the world together, and use this technology know-how to accelerate the way scientific work is done, the way scientific work is published, the way data is analyzed, and make it a more robust and fast process. For this purpose, we are an open innovation group. There is no really framework in terms of collaboration. Everyone is welcome, either individuals, companies, startups, non-profits, everything you can imagine that feels comfortable with open source, open knowledge, sharing know-how, connecting know-how to create bigger pictures, outcomes. Everyone is welcome. So join us on social media, follow us, or reach out to anyone in the community. At the end, you will see how you can contact us. So looking forward. We are a young initiative. The initiative has been launched with the support of the FHNW. This is a university and University of Applied Science. It's like an association in the western northern part of Switzerland. It's a very strong life science university and was initiated with the collaboration with their support. So it's not exclusive for anyone, so feel free to reach out again for potential collaboration or maybe even as a guest speaker. What we would like to do is connect the ideas and minds across tech expertise and scientific expertise and discover existing issues or problems, bottlenecks, or maybe something that is just not making a lot of fun while being a researcher, and look for ways how they can be solved, and specifically in the context of OrigamiLab with technology. There are a lot of examples where other industries have done it quite well already, and just by simply taking those best practices or lessons learned from other industries to the domain of science and research, improve the work life, improve the satisfaction, and also give a little bit of an upgrade to the young generation of scientists that they are used to have in their private life in most of the cases. Yeah, so much about OrigamiLab. Just to emphasize one more time, it's really about being a platform, an ecosystem of ideas. Every opinion counts, and people can get together without even our support, but we want to facilitate and constantly repeat the problem statements, the potential solution ideas, and also support the process of connecting people together and accelerating the ideas. So here, again, no corporate agenda or commercial agenda. Feel free to join in, have a conversation, and raise your points. Yeah, so far from my side, I will then head back over and looking forward to our guest talk. And yeah, see you soon.
Now, yes, Karina, you can share your screen now. So
Yes. Are you able to see my screen?
yes, great.
Perfect. So let's start. So the today's topic is a security vaccine for healthcare and how to protect sensitive data. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Karina Chichifoi, and I'm attending a master degree in computer engineering at the University of Bologna. My research interests include cybersecurity, especially network security and web security, but also data anonymization and all its applications. I'm also into AI, especially natural language processing and deep learning. And my dream is to combine AI solutions in field concerning cybersecurity, for example, network traffic analysis and attack preventions, but also to apply AI in data anonymization. For this reason, in my bachelor thesis, I did some experiments with a neural network in order to decide whether a password is secure or not. I also took part to several cybersecurity competitions and got first place with my teammate in the Shakti CTF. And the main topics were forensics, web security, binary analysis, and cryptography. I was also selected for the team that represented the University of Bologna in the final competition of Cyber Challenge, and I became the digital ambassador of this Cybersecurity Academy. And my goal is to promote activities and meetings on the world of cybersecurity, encouraging greater participation by anyone with a desire to learn more. I'm also involved in helping to reduce the gender gap in the cybersecurity world and to introduce more girls from different backgrounds in this field. And in the past, I also took part in Coding Girls event in order to help and encourage girls in high schools to develop a mindset useful for coding and problem solving. I want also to thank my professor Marco Prandini and the Ulysses team because they introduced me to cybersecurity and I could not be here without them. So let's start with the main topics of this talk: cyber attacks to hospitals and how to prevent them, and also a bit of data anonymization. So why security is security important in hospitals? Well, generally speaking, nobody wants to have problems when health is involved. With the growing digitization process, several problems may arise. And with more operations available online, for example, booking a visit, there will be more data on servers, and such data must be properly protected. And hospital patients are in a vulnerable position during this stay and must also be afforded the correct level of security from the healthcare facilities. Also, all services must be online 20 hours per 7 days, and appointments and surgeries must be well arranged in order to ensure the best conditions and the most optimal cures for patients. Also, pacemakers, insulin pumps, and other medical devices are becoming more advanced. So nowadays, most of them are software-based and connected to the internet and hospital networks. This could lead to physical harm in case these devices are hacked and or maybe if hospital services are down. So let's talk about data involved in attacks. Data involved could be patients and all hospitals workers' personal data, where, for example, where they are living, their state IDs, their patient IDs, and their phone number, their health problems. Also, all visit scheduling are involved. Also, IP addresses, MAC addresses of medical devices, operating systems, and their possible vulnerabilities. And also they are involved all the hospital and doctor schedule. And also some data is also related to credit cards, and some of them are in the deep web. For example, insurance plan, identification numbers, payer identification numbers, and payment amounts. And so let's discuss about why are hospitals targeted. Hospitals in general store an incredible amount of patient data. Confidential data that's worth a lot of money to cyber criminals who can sell it on easily, making also the industry a growing target. So these organizations have a duty to protect their patients' personal record, and also with GDPR coming into play, it's becoming increasingly important for hospitals to keep their information. Also, all hospitals are easy to attack, and in general, for these following reasons. There are too many vulnerable devices which are connected all to the hospital network, and if an attack succeeds, almost all devices are affected. And also, most of these devices used are outdated and run old operating systems and software in general, which are, of course, more vulnerable. Also, healthcare staff aren't educated in online risks because medical professionals are maybe trained to deal with a lot, but education in online threats is not in their schedule. So budget, resources, and time constraints mean it's simply not possible for all healthcare staff to be fluent in cybersecurity best practice. And also, medical devices are an easy entry point for attackers. Just think about medical devices like X-rays, insulin pumps, and the defibrillators that play a critical role in modern healthcare. And medical devices are designed for one purpose, like monitoring heart rates or dispensing drugs. They are not made with security in mind. Also, the devices themselves may not store the patient data that attackers pursue. They can be used to launch an attack on a server that doesn't hold maybe valuable information. And in a worst case scenario, a medical device can be completely taken over by cyber criminals and preventing healthcare organizations from providing vital life-saving treatments to patients. And now let's discuss about some statistics. And spoiler, the statistics are not so good because the healthcare industry invests less than 6% of its budget on cybersecurity, and this is a really big issue. Also, 88% of healthcare workers open phishing emails. Phishing also is a common way for data thieves to pull off attacks, and naturally, a decent part of health information security breaches take place because of hackers using this approach. And also, in 2020, healthcare suffered close to 240 million hacking attempts. And another bad news is that around 50% of healthcare organizations and their business associates have not increased their cybersecurity budgets in the last year. About 10% even lowered spending on security. And this is probably an indication that most of these organizations are not aware of healthcare data breaches statistics. And despite the issues they're facing, many organizations are not trying to modernize. Instead, apparently, most of them choose to pretend as if they won't be responsible for the next data breach. And so now let's discuss about the main attacks, which are the most common in the healthcare. And these are ransomware, insider threats, denial of service, and also phishing. Let's talk about the most common one, which is ransomware. And ransomware is a type of attack that infects systems and files, rendering them inaccessible until a ransom is paid. When this occurs in the healthcare industry, critical processes are slowed or become completely inoperable. Typically, ransomware infects victim machines in one of these three ways: through phishing emails containing a malicious attachment, also via a user clicking on a malicious link, or by viewing an advertisement containing malware. And also this is called maladvertising. And why hospitals are ransom targets? While there is no definitive proof, some have speculated that the high ransom demands observed in healthcare-related cases indicates the cyber threat actors were aware of who they had infected. They may have been aware that devices compromised in an infection process are often crucial to a hospital mission, and the ransomware may render them inaccessible, delaying patients' care while causing tremendous pressure to remediate the issue immediately. Also, this pressure, combined with the fact that hospitals generally have financial resources on hand, potentially increases the likelihood that the attackers will be paid. And also, there are two categories of ransomware, and they are local ransomware, where the device is locked and data is not affected, and crypto ransomware, where individual files are encrypted. Let's talk about the biggest ransomware attack ever, which was Wannacry on 12 May 2017. And the attack was estimated to have affected more than 200,000 computers across 150 countries, with Windows as operating system, with total damages ranging from hundreds of millions to billions of dollars. Security experts believed from preliminary evaluation of the worm that the attack originated from North Korea or agencies working for the country. It propagates through Eternal Blue, which is an exploit developed by the United States National Security Agency. And while Microsoft has released patches previously to close the exploit, much of Wannacry spread was from organizations that had not applied this or were using older Windows systems that were past their end of life, like, for example, Windows XP. And the malware leaves hospitals and GPs unable to access patient data, with many doctors resorting to use pen and paper. Also, hospitals were cancelling operations, and ambulances has been diverted from hospitals in some areas. And how does it work, Wannacry? So Wannacry is a ransomware crypto worm which targeted computers running the Microsoft Windows operating system by encrypting data and demanding ransom payments in the Bitcoin cryptocurrency. And typically, a worm has the ability to remain active on infected systems and self-replicated, and infect every device connected to the one infected. No user action, of course, is required for this replication. A computer worm duplicates itself to spread through uninfected computers, so it often does this by exploiting parts of an operating system that are automatic and invisible to the user. It is common for worms to be noticed only when their control replication consumes systems resources, slowing or halting other tasks. Now I want to talk about a patient story during the Wannacry attack. And Ron Grimshaw, which was 8 years old, was halfway through a magnetic resonance imaging scan to test for prostate cancer at Lister Hospital in Stevenage, Hertfordshire, when staff became aware of the attack. He was put in the scanner for 10 minutes, and then he was pulled out again. But the nurses were discussing about the cyber attack and told him their systems were down. And the old man waited for some details about the scanning, when can be scanned again, but nothing was done, and he went home. He was scheduled for a chest X-ray, and but also that the visit was cancelled. And in that day, he couldn't do any single operation because his appointments were postponed. Just imagine a ransomware scenario with someone at serious risk in that moment. So I think it's just a matter of time before the first recognized direct death by a ransomware. Now let's talk about another common malware, but it's not a common one because it's caused by general employees, which are insider threats. And an insider threat refers to employees or individuals with permitted access that may potentially damage an information management system by disrupting, revealing, or altering sensitive information. According to Verizon Report 2021, insiders are thought to be responsible for 22% of security issues, and employees exploiting their access is relatively common in the healthcare industry. In general, malicious insiders typically commit this act for financial gain, 64% of the time, and 17% do it for their own amusement. And now let's talk about a real-life example of insider threat. And an insider victimized one Texas hospital when an employee built a botnet using the hospital network to attack rival groups. So he was eventually caught after he filmed himself staging an infiltration of the hospital network and then posted it on YouTube for public viewing. The video clearly shows the individual using a specific key to infiltrate the hospital, which revealed his identity as Jesse McGraw and a night security guard of the building. And the investigation revealed that McGraw has downloaded malware on dozens of machines, including nursing stations with patient records. And additionally to this, he also installed a backdoor in the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning unit, which if failed would have caused damage to drugs and medicines and affected the hospital's patients during the hot Texas summer. McGraw pled guilty to computer tampering charges, and he is serving a 9-year sentence in addition to paying $31,000 in fines. Now let's talk about denial of service in the healthcare sector. Distributed denial of service attacks are a popular tactic, technique, and procedure used by activists and cybercriminals to overwhelm a network to the point of inoperability. And this can pose a serious problem for the healthcare providers who need access in the network to provide proper patient care or need access to the internet to send and receive emails, prescriptions, records, informations. And while some DDoS attacks are opportunistic or even accidental, many target victims for a social, political, geological, or financial cause related to a situation that angers the cyber threat actors. And now let's discuss about phishing, which is one of the most common type of attack. Usually an attacker sends an email or a text message to retrieve doctor's personal information. They attempt to steal hospital employees' password and account numbers in order to steal or delete data from the hospitals or to attack them using a malware or, in the worst case, a ransomware. Usually this email look like from someone we know, but for example, from Amazon or from a bank, but also from police or government. Usually we see an example of phishing email, which looked like this. And this email could contain the following things: a suspicious sender. They also could contain an alert of suspicious activities or login attempts, or also to claim there are some problems with an account or a payment record, like this screenshot. Say to confirm some personal information, also including a fake invoice, and make people click to pay something. A real-life example of phishing was the Iowa hospital. In the Iowa-based Wayne County Hospital notifies 2016 patients that their data may have been exposed due to a phishing attack on its employee email. The cybercriminals gained access to some employee email account that contains some patient names, social security numbers, financial account information, and medical related information. And now let's talk about real life case which I experienced myself, which was the ASL Bologna. In March 2021, I got interested in testing the security of medical reports since I had just taken an exam and I was waiting for my results. So I went to the page where the ASL of Bologna allows people to view my results, and I started intercepting the requests for fun. The page requires your tax code, which is used for identification and which is derivable from public information like date of birth, name, surname, place of birth, number of exam, which I suppose it's progressive, but I actually couldn't confirm it, and an OTP, which stands for one-time password. Let's start with the OTP. The OTP must be requested and is asked only once. In order to gain it, we need the tax code and number of exam. An issue was the website gave you the number automatically if you start the OTP page request in the HTTP responses. And this is viewable in the browser, which is with the inspect element network without permissions. Another problem is in the HTTP response, there is also patient's phone number. The tax code can be found on online documents and it's not treated like passwords, and it can be calculated with basic info about a person, and the number of exam can be guessed too, and thanks to social engineering or brute force. But since it's progressive, we can reduce the interval of confidence and guess it in a few attempts. Just think about this example. Luca, which we know the tax of, has an exam planned on 30th of December. Online, we found the person that published his medical report on healthcare forums with doctor online who asked for clarification, which has made on the 10th of December in the same ASL, which would allow us to brute force only a small interval starting from 10th of December to 29th of December and obtain all his medical reports. And now I want to discuss about data breaches because there are some terrible news in these last two years. And 2019 was a record-setting year for the healthcare data breaches, but it was topped by 237 incidents in 2020. 2021 is on pace to take the new record with 56 breaches through the first 2 months. And of all the 22 billion records of personal information exposed in 2020, the largest share belonged to the healthcare industry. Also, ransomware attacks accounted for almost 54% of 2020 healthcare data breaches, and they are the strong majority. The next largest cause was email compromise and phishing, which is around 21%, followed by insider tweet, which are around 7%, and unsecured database, which are almost 4%. Third-party vendor compromised account for about 25% of the healthcare data breaches and about 12 million of exposed patient records. The largest healthcare data breaches in history was the Anthem Blue Cross in 2015, and a total of 78.8 million patient records were stolen. The type of data taken was highly sensitive and included records like social security numbers, date of birth, and addresses. Despite most victims being Anthem plan members, some were not. This is because Anthem also worked with a number of independent insurance companies, also managing their payroll as well. And now let's talk about what can be done in order to prevent cyber attacks. And both cybersecurity and healthcare share the same motto: prevention is better than cure. So the best practices are, first of all, to keep up to date in order to benefit from the latest security patches. Also, to make sure there is a plan in case of a ransomware infection. Also, to backup your data, because even the best preventive measure can fail. A contingency plan consists of having a backup of your data. In this way, no data is lost and all functionalities are restored faster. Also, to avoid using very old computers and devices, because they don't support newest operating systems and they are full of vulnerabilities. In addition, careful action, especially with regard to rogue websites and the mail attachments. Of course, never click on unsafe links. Avoid clicking on links in spam messages or on unknown websites. because if you click on malicious links, an automatic download could be started, which could lead to your computer being infected. Also, to do not open suspicious email attachments, because ransomware can also find its way to your device through email attachments. Another best practice is to never use USB sticks, because never connecting USB sticks or other storage media to your computer if you don't know where they came from. Cybercriminals, in fact, have infected the storage medium and placed it in a public place to entice someone into using it. Also, to use only download sources which are known. Minimize, of course, the risk of downloading ransomware. Never download software or media files from unknown websites. A shield or lock symbol in the address bar can also indicate that the page is secure. And another best practice is to train your user and employees on how to recognize and report an insider threat or to prevent them from inadvertently becoming one. And this is the best way to protect your organization. Also, it is important to use multi-factor authentication, which is a less expensive solution than the payout from ransomware or similar attacks. And multi-factor authentication is a solution that requires more than one piece of information to identify a user and then generates a one-time password on each login session. Now let's talk about data protection. We saw cases where personal data was lost or stolen by cybercriminals. So now let's talk about how data must be processed by hospitals and their importance of privacy. One thing that is heavily emphasized in GDPR is the importance of privacy of design. Mechanisms to protect personal integrity should be built into IT systems and services. One of the core principles is data minimization. This means that all products and services should be designed to as little personal data as possible is processed. And some applications of data minimizations, according to Swedish Data Protection Authority, are limiting data processing to information that only identifies an individual indirectly, use encrypted traffic and encrypt data, limiting data gathering to data that is less sensitive. Also, replace number names with pseudonyms and do not routinely have personal identity numbers as fields in database. Another important principle organizations should follow is privacy by design by default. By default, companies and organizations should ensure that personal data is processed with the highest privacy protection. For example, only the data necessary should be processed, and also short storage period, limited accessibility. So in this way, by default, personal data is made accessible to an indefinite number of people. And also two terms that have been used a lot when discussing privacy by design and data minimization are coming, which are data anonymization and pseudonymization. What is data anonymization? Anonymous information is something which does not relate to an identified or identifiable natural person or to personal data rendered anonymous in such a manner that the data subject is not or no longer identifiable. This way, any possible link to a natural person are removed and additional information can restore the original one. And what is data pseudonymization? When we talk about pseudonymization, personal data is processed such that they can no longer be attributed to a specific data subject without the use of additional information. This prevents the data from being specifically pinpointing the user. The only way pseudonymized data can be linked to a unique individual is by combining it with other pieces of data which are stored and protected separately. This system allows organizations to analyze personal data and continue providing customer services to customers while protecting the subject's right to privacy. And what are the differences between anonymization and pseudonymization? Pseudonymization means that an individual can still be identified indirectly or with additional information. And this means that pseudonymized personal data is still in scope. Anonymization means that you cannot restore the original information, and such data is out of scope of the GDPR. And why we are talking about pseudonymization? We saw some scenarios with data involved in breaches. Imagine just to discover a clinical condition of someone by its basic information and being sold to cybercriminals and to harmful people or organizations who make profit with personal data. And there are also some consequences for those who don't respect the GDPR. And the GDPR allows the EU data protection authorities to issue fines of up to 20 million euros or 4% of annual global turnover. Every institution must respect it. It's an action far less expensive than fines from the EU and ransoms individually. Now let's talk about real-life example with data anonymization. And 1 in 10 Australians' private health records have been exposed by the Department of Health in an embarrassing blunder that includes people on HIV medication or having terminated a pregnancy or seeing a psychologist. They found that patients can be re-identified without decryption through a process of linking the unencrypted parts of the record with known information about the individuals, such, for example, medical procedures and year of birth. This shows the surprising ease which the identification can fail, highlighting also the risky balance between data sharing and privacy. While a unique match may not always be accurate, there was the possibility to increase the probabilities of being identified with a second dataset. The breach damaged public confidence in health policy makers and data custodians. The ability to re-identify patients from this sort of public release is catastrophic. Real dangers are posed to patients with social difficult conditions. And the project was halted and the dataset was removed immediately. The spokesperson said the department has since taken further steps to protect and manage data. The department also is working with the University of Melbourne and has already acted to improve its process. And in conclusion, the best solution to, in general, that institution must follow is follow security by design and security by default guidelines defined by GDPR. In case an hospital is attacked, personal information about patients and hospitals workers must be pseudonymized. People should not be recognized when their information are leaked. Also, when a data breach occurs, it should be harder, even with another dataset linked, in order to identify someone. And a last consideration is that cybersecurity and medicine have some aspects in common. Both need some guidelines for a better life, and both share the same formula. And to prevent is better than cure. I also want to conclude with this sentence, which I found really suitable for this topic. Let the fear of danger be a spur to prevent it. He that fears not gives advantage to the danger. And thank you so much for the attention.
Thank you so much, Karina, for a great presentation and such valuable information. I think everyone found something worth to remember for us and to know about cybersecurity to implement in their activity. Now we will do a short QA session. So if you would like to ask something, you can ask in chat, or you have function raise your hand, so do not hesitate, please. You can also raise your hand and ask whatever you're interested in our guest speaker. So let's start.
Maybe I would open up the question round. I have 3 questions for Karina. Thank you very much, first of all, Karina, for the great presentation. Cybersecurity. Yeah, and thank you for sharing the broad overview. Specifically now with COVID, everyone is becoming more digital, right? I remember when the first lockdown happened, we had quite a few meetings with meeting participants that were still not clear how to, how remote working works and how to dial in into a conference. Same issues I had today, by the way. And I think it's a very relevant topic. So thank you very much for presenting it to us. One question is interesting, maybe for everyone, how you, from the security perspective, see the widespread home office now for specifically office workers, where people use their own hardware, laptops, log in from private networks, and are not in such controlled environment as well for social engineering attacks, where a colleague might not be your colleague on WhatsApp. Have you seen something like this, or similar cases, or is that not an issue at all for so many people currently working remotely?
No, yes, I think it's an issue to work online, and this is a great problem because in general people don't care so much about security, but as such a lot of services are online, there are more risks to privacy and also to be a victim of a cyber attack. It is not important which role is more suitable to you, because you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be for example simply teacher or professor, but you should care as much as a person who is working in the cybersecurity field. And first of all, I think it's important to understand, for example, how a phishing email looks like, and to be more careful about attachments and links in email, and also to be more careful when visiting sites, and only visiting secure and high trusted sites, because with smart working it's easier to make some mistakes with credentials, and also visit strange sites is not the best. I think also it's a good practice to be careful what people in general download, because it could be a malware, it could be a ransomware, and also healthcare suffered a lot due to this problem, because hospital workers don't give so much attention, and this leads to harms like attacks and also physical harms to people that were in hospitals and received cures. And I also think that not giving to anyone their personal information is really important, because in these days people tend to exaggerate with the self-esteem. It's good, but not so good if you reveal some personal information, like, for example, where are you working, your credential, your tax code. I saw a lot of cases with tax code on Facebook, which, okay, it's maybe understandable. It's easy to understand how a tax code works, but it's kind of stupid. I also saw people posting photos with billings and so much more, and also with their email and their credentials, their photo in the office with the credentials on a post-it. And yeah, I think everybody should care about security, but also don't forget that everyone who maybe can be a victim of a cyber attack.
Thank you very much. And
thank you.
Last question from my side on the moderation. You just mentioned specifically doctors or maybe healthcare workers not being so aware of security issues or security topics, and maybe
Yes.
also on the other side, since now telemedicine is becoming quite at least a famous topic where your watch or your wristband or some things will communicate information to your doctor, or communicate it to the hospital, where you have some sort of telemedicine or remote diagnose approach that also generates a lot of personal data,
Yes.
where maybe the consumer or the user, which is the patient, is not really aware how to safely safeguard this information. or maybe just be aware of issues that could be involved in this. What is your view on that? Is that not a concern, or should people that generally in healthcare are in the healthcare industry now do more education on these topics, and also maybe pay attention more to this, also on the patient side, right?
I think that maybe in general, newspaper, but also TVs and on internet should be some advices in order to be more careful with your data. Because nowadays I saw, for example, a lot of ads with a lot of issues, like, for example, going to vaccine yourself in order to not to be more to not be a risk for the society. But I also think that also cybersecurity and best practices should be teach in order to maybe make people be aware what your personal data actually really mean. So I think that maybe in schools, first of all, in schools, it is necessary to receive an education about the cyber risks, like cyberbullying, but also not only cyberbullying, but also cyber risks with your data, with your photos, with your credentials. And after that, because now not everyone is in schools, there are also some adults who are working in public sectors and so on. So I think that they also need some education by some online sites. Also, I think on social media will be more efficient to communicate these useful maybe suggestions in order to be more secure with your data. And yes, but unfortunately, not so many organizations actually care about your personal data, and there isn't so much information about that and about the cyber risks. And this is the principal cause that, in general, hospitals, but not only hospitals, are victims of cyber attacks. To reply properly to the question, because
thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Topic.
All right, yeah, those are the two questions. I would have one more, but maybe there's someone else who wants to ask something, or.
Oh, we have some questions in the chat also. So.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Karina. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have first question. Which services should someone inspect to find on a network of a hospital for cybersecurity reasons? On your opinion, how do you think?
1 second, because I want to see it full screen. And please, can you repeat the question?
Which services should someone expect to find on a network of a hospital, in your opinion?
Okay, so I think that in general, services in general use a lot of patient data, but not only patient. If we talk about healthcare, but also about workers and so on. And in a hospital, I expect in general to have, first of all, HTTPS instead of HTTP, because this is a common issue. The information is not encrypted, and this is the first issue. So I expect in the hospital to find encrypted data, to find databases which contain information which are not as they are. I want to see maybe pseudonymized data, to not see name, surname, age, date of birth, etc. from a person. So I think that I need maybe more privacy for my information, because I'm also a patient. So I expect to find more privacy, not my name and surname in clear, also encryption in general, and also some services which are aware about the network traffic, because as you can see, when you wanted to be vaccinated, you had some issues like me, because in Emilia-Romagna there were some issues with the pre-notation of the vaccine. And I think that in general servers need to know how many people are possible using this service, and to guarantee that that service is online, is always online, and without up and downs. In the Italian healthcare, this is, I think, one of the most important issues, because maybe you want something, you want to just having a visit, but you cannot have an appointment because all services are down, and you have to wait, and you have to retry 700 more times. And for that reason, I think privacy, services always online, and encryption are the most important parts of a network service, or in general a service which is online. If I understand that, if I understand the question properly, I hope.
Yeah,
I hope to reply to your question. Yeah.
Yes, that's great. You can see also the next questions in the chat. So
Okay.
Hi.
So has there been any cases in which a ransomware posed an actual threat on someone's life? Yes, there was, in fact. It happened in Germany when a 78-year-old woman suffering an aortic aneurysm, and she was involved in this terrible situation. Her conditions were getting worse, and when she has to arrive to the hospital, the emergency department was closed due to a ransomware attack, which compromised the digital infrastructure that the hospital relies on to coordinate doctors, for example, beds and medical devices, forcing them to turn the ambulance away to another hospital. So the ambulance was actually directed to the second closest hospital, but the second hospital was really far. It was 32 kilometers away, and this delayed the patient treatment by an hour, and she died. And this is a terrible issue because, in fact, the attack wasn't directed to the hospital, but to a university in Germany. And even the cyber criminals presented their keys, their encrypted keys. It was too late because she died. So yes, there was a terrible trouble with a ransomware, and maybe it wasn't the first cause of death of this person, but it contributed it as well. So I hope to reply properly to your question.
Oh, great.
Okay. Okay. Other questions, because I cannot see other one. Should doctors themselves care about security of their computers? Well, as I said before, yes, absolutely, because as they are hospital workers, they should care about like maybe everyone else. So I know the mission is maybe saving lives and not patching security stuff, but it's important to have some education about security. For example, just understand how a phishing email looks like, visiting only secure sites, as I said before, and as I said before, to be careful about what the doctors download in general, or their family members, and not giving to anyone their personal information, because this could lead maybe the hospital services and also the reputation of the hospital.
Oh, great. And do you see the next one? About on how do you think we could better communicate, educate about data security risk to both healthcare consumers and healthcare workers?
Okay, as I said before, in schools, when you are young, it's important to educate children and about cybersecurity risks like your data privacy, like for example your photos and so on. And but when you are not young, but you are an adult working maybe in the public field, in the public sector, but also to the private one, I think that maybe we can to emphasize these concepts with television, because television must educate in some parts people and not to diseducate people. Also to make some ads on social medias which are commonly used by everyone. And I think maybe on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and so on, people should, maybe the big tech companies should give some advices in cybersecurity risks. And for that reason, unfortunately, not so much people care, because the problem isn't even told to people who maybe can have this problem. So,
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Karina. So it was all questions for today. Now you can see how you can find us in social media, on LinkedIn, or on Twitter, YouTube, GitHub, and you can also communicate us with your ideas if you want to be part of initiative, or if you want to be next speaker. Don't hesitate to write us. Also, we will share our broadcast and the next summary with you, and hope to see you soon on a new NanoCon. Have a great day, and thank you, Karina, for a lot of useful information that we got today.
thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for the attention too.
Thank you, Karina. See you soon, everyone.
See you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.